Hi, everyone. Hello, gorgeous audience. I'm Michelle Lee. I am the founder of an agency called Monologue, and I was the editor-in-chief of Allure magazine for about 6 years. I am so thrilled to be joined on stage for our first panel of the day with these amazing women who I am endlessly inspired by. Wanted to just go down the line and have each of them introduce themselves. Brandi?
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here, and this is such a gorgeous audience, my. I am currently the Senior Vice President of Brand Marketing and Media at Ulta Beauty. I have been in this role for just about 7 months, and this is my first time working in the beauty industry, although I have been a beauty enthusiast for years. So my background has really been in all facets of advertising and marketing for consumer goods, and most recently, I was global head of digital marketing at Meta, as well as head of marketing for a program called Meta Elevate, which was focused on helping Black and Hispanic small businesses really increase their economic impact. And I'm so happy to now be at a company in Ulta Beauty where I continue to be able to help uplift founders, because I truly found that it's a passion of mine to try to help as best I can really bring a showcase and a platform to help all businesses of color. So I'm just very happy to be here.
Amazing. Nyakio.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. I'm Nyakio Grieco. I'm the co-founder of 13 Lune, the first of its kind, truly inclusive beauty retail platform. 90% of all the brands we carry at 13 Lune are created by people of color from around the globe who make products for everyone. 10% dedicated to fostering allyship. We have a flagship store here in Los Angeles and 600 stores within JCPenney Beauty. I'm also the founder of Relevant, a clean, inclusive, science-led beauty brand where we carry skincare, cosmetics, and fragrance.
Oh, you do? Hi, everyone. I'm Aina. I'm a content creator and a co-founder of a home and now fine fragrance brand called Forever Mood. And yeah, I've been doing content creation since 2009, so I'm kind of like an OG, like, you know, people in this industry make you feel like you old past 30, but it's okay. I'm just experienced. But yeah, I'm like really proud of like the fact that like I'm still around kicking it, and I love what I do, especially because a lot of my work really heavily centers Black women experiences, dark-skinned Black women. I feel like our experiences are really unique, and like I'm extremely proud of the platform and the community that I built, and super happy to be here.
I mean, powerhouse women. So I hugged Jackie this morning and I was like, you smell amazing. So big shout out to her new fragrances. Okay, so Jackie, let's start with you. As you mentioned, you've been in this business for a while in different capacities. The topic today for our panel is to give a state of the beauty union, right? Like, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? I'm curious from your perspective, since you know you have seen the beauty industry from so many different sides. Like, how are we doing? Like, what are we doing right?
I think right now there's like never been a better time to be not even just in the creator space, but like to be a person of color, to be Black, to be a woman, and to be able to put yourself out there and do the unknown, which is amazing. Like the fact that like when I was younger, my now dream job didn't even exist, and now it's a job for so many people is incredible. And that is something that I want to see more of. Am I supposed to add like a thing that needs to change, or just, okay, because I got a lot of opinions on that one. I definitely, especially because I've been a creator in this space for so long, I definitely worry about like sometimes the long-term effects of like social media on visible Black people on social media. It's not as easy as it looks. Yes, virality is amazing. Yes, money's great, but like, what good is it if your mental health isn't all the way in check? And I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize, or maybe they just haven't like realized it while they're experiencing, is all of the things that you experience in the corporate world, in real life, racism, colorism, featureism, texturism, like all of those things exist online as well. And so it's always gonna shape not only how you show up as a person online, but like maybe not compare yourself to someone that's growing at a speed of 1 million followers in 6 months if you don't look like them, you know? And so like that can also mess with you too. I think comparison is the thief of joy, and sometimes we don't make that connection, and then we have to remember like, oh yeah, like people also pick favorites online too, the same way they do in real life. So those things can affect you. And like, I think I'm just like, how is that gonna shape, you know, how we become adults? Because there's a lot of young people online and they really have no business being online either, but they are. So like, how can we make it a healthier space? I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts around that specifically, but it's visibility is awesome. You can always find your niche. You can always find the corner of the internet of someone who looks like you. And I love that.
So true. Okay, so Brandi, from your perspective, because as you mentioned, you've worked in a bunch of different industries, including tech. You have been at Ulta Beauty now for 7 months. What's your perspective on how the beauty industry is doing?
Yeah, I love that question. As I was starting to study this industry back when I was interviewing even, I did take a minute to just reflect on my own personal moments of beauty. And I thought, like, what are my early memories of beauty? I'm gonna date myself a little bit. So when I go back in time, you know, you learn things from your parents, your mom, your aunt. And I still remember going to the department store with my mom to buy her makeup, and there was one brand she could choose. If you're lucky, maybe 2. And then when I was in high school and starting to experiment on my own, the shades didn't match. You know, it would wash out the beautiful melanin in my skin. This wasn't like a good time until I went to college. When I went to college, all of a sudden, MAC changed my world. And to this day, I will always have a chestnut lip liner from MAC in my bag because of that. And now, I think about where we are in the industry today. There's so many choices. My nieces don't have to go through what I went through back in the day. And while we still have a lot more work to do, it's a beautiful time, just as you were saying, to really be in this industry. And you know, working at Ulta Beauty, and it's a big part of the reason why I said yes to this job. The whole thing we're trying to do is just showcase inclusivity at its best. We truly believe that we, as the nation's largest beauty retailer, have a responsibility to make sure that we have the most inclusive assortment. So we've gone to work. You know, back in 2021, we joined the 15% pledge, which was important. We have 45 plus Black-owned brands. We have brands across all sorts of wonderful BIPOC founders. But again, there's still more work to do, and the important thing is to continue to be consistent, because I think we have all seen many other companies across industries a couple of years ago. They made lots of pledges and lots of promises, and they haven't always kept those. So being consistent and remaining accountable, I think, is really important as we continue on this journey.
Super important. Nyakio, feel free, obviously, to weigh in on what you think the industry is doing right, but would also, you know, the big mission for today is how do we make lasting change? So would love to hear your perspective on what you think that we can move forward on.
Yes, I mean, I agree with both Jackie and Brandi and the points that they shared. And, you know, I like to start from a place of hope and positivity. I co-founded 13 Loon in 2020, and that was as a result of being a beauty founder for 23 years. At that point, 18 years, now 23 years. And finding myself with my first brand at the top of all of those listicles that were going around in 2020 of Black-owned businesses or Black-founded businesses to shop and follow. And quite honestly, it was the most attention I had ever received for that beauty brand that I'd been working so hard at for 18 years. And while it was lovely to receive the attention, it was really built on the precipice of this very hard time. And I'd say the most exciting thing was getting to discover so many other brands that were on these lists that I didn't know existed. I had often been the only Black woman on shelf in premium beauty, and so I saw it as an opportunity to sort of flip the industry on its head. And so I'd say from a place of hope, I think I know, as I am a founder and a retailer and still a founder, that you know, we have permission like we never had before 2020 to really stand in our strongest and brightest light, to celebrate our heritage, to tie things back to our culture. I'm a first-generation American of Kenyan descent, and you know, when I was coming up, and I'm gonna date myself at 27, and when I launched my first brand in 2002, everybody in the industry was using ingredients that came from Africa, but nobody was talking about Africa. And so to see how far we've come since 2002 is so inspiring and empowering. You know, when we talk about, you know, beautiful initiatives like the 15% pledge that Aurora started and Pull Up for Change, what those initiatives did, going back to permission, was, you know, give us a stage and a space to be able to call a multi-billion-dollar industry where so many Black and brown, especially women, have built many of those billions of dollars for this industry, the opportunity to say that we deserve to take up more space. I think that work continues. There's a lot to do, but you know, that's step one. Getting to shelf is truly step one. It's exciting when you get that PO, it's exciting when you get that moment, but so many brands, especially people of color, aren't set up to win at shelf. And that really starts from check writing, that starts from investment. A lot of them don't have infrastructure, don't have team. And so where I think the responsibility and onus on us as retailers is not only to bring those brands to shelf, but to nurture them, to help them, and to show the greater investment community at large that we are worth the investment.
By show of hands, curious out here, how many of you would consider yourselves to be a content creator? A bunch of you. Okay, so Jackie, I know you talked before about the content creation portion of things and mental health. Would also just be curious to hear from your perspective where else you see inequities when it comes to the world of content creation, and what do you think we can do to make lasting change? So for example, content creators across the board, are payments the same? Like, are we seeing sort of like equal treatment across that world?
No. From what I know of, just from what I see publicly, people talking about these experiences, most of the Black creators that I know don't really face this issue, but that's because these are people that have been doing it a bit longer. They have a little bit more leverage, but I've noticed that for the smaller creator, the mid-tier creator, the opportunities are definitely not the same. The pay is not always the same. You're expected to do more for less. You're also expected to prove yourself more. Like, okay, so why'd you reach out to me in the first place if you didn't think I could get the job done, okay? So that's an issue, and it really shouldn't be, but I know it's almost like a unspoken rule that you're supposed to just like, well, you're lucky to even be here. Like, that's kind of the vibe that still kind of exists, and it shouldn't be that way at all.
What do you think we can do to change that?
Pay people what they're worth, like just write a check. I mean, if you're asking somebody to do work, pay them what they're worth, and don't ask people to overperform. And I actually think, like, this is probably an unpopular opinion, I actually kind of feel like if you as a brand are reaching out to a Black creator, and maybe that's a demographic you don't often reach out to, you probably should be paying them a little bit more, because you may be, there have been times where like a brand has posted me, and because they're not used to seeing Black people on their Instagram page, I'm like inundated with like a barrage of like racist comments for no apparent reason. Like, girl, I thought we was just talking about lipstick. Why are you calling me outside of my name? This is a hot mess. And so I just kind of feel like if you're not doing the work and making it a point to make your brand inclusive, if you have the budget to pay them more for that, I think you should.
Really good points. Lots of clapping. Okay, so Brandi, can you talk to us a little bit about the Muse Accelerator program and how that's worked for change? And also just tell us a little bit about what's in the future.
I love talking about our Music Accelerator because a part of the way that we're actually going to drive more inclusivity is for more companies, just like Ulta is doing, to back up what they're saying with actions. So back in 2022, Ulta Beauty launched their Music Accelerator with the express purpose to amplify underrepresented voices in beauty. And so each year since then, and applications open in June for our next cohort, we have selected 8 founders, all BIPOC branded or founded companies, to both help them financially, so providing a grant because you need money if you are going to be a founder and successful and to become retail ready. But importantly, coupling the money with a 10-week curriculum that takes these founders through everything from brand positioning to P&L management to social media, which my team has actually created curriculum for them, all to try to make sure that they become retail ready. And we've also enlisted many founders, some of which who are included across these 2 days to be mentors. So I don't know if David Yee is here today. I think he might have been here yesterday. He was a founder. That was a mentor. Ron Robinson from Beauty Stat, whom I love. Hey there, Ron, back there, whom I love, was also a mentor. And it really is all about how can we help, again, these underrepresented voices become successful, not only, hopefully at Ulta Beauty, but just into the world, because we recognize that we have a responsibility to help nurture these businesses to take them to success. And importantly, and I'm so proud to say this, we had one of our founder brands, Pound Cake, graduate from our inaugural class to actually be on Ulta shelves back in the fall of last year, which is amazing. So it really shows that progress. But it's not easy being a founder by any stretch of the imagination. You have to learn so many things beyond, I've created this product, I see a need, I think it can fit on your shelf. Not only do you need the money like you were talking about, but you got to understand things like supply chain. And so that's where having this mentorship with not only Ulta Beauty executives, but the other founders really comes into play. So as we look ahead to the future, I talked about consistency. Consistency matters, so we are going to have another class. So again, applications will open in June, and I can't wait to see the brands and the founders that continue to come through the program.
Amazing. Nyakio, I feel like I've been at other events where I've heard you talk about this, so I'm gonna put this question to you. This happens all the time in Hollywood also, where, for example, someone will see like, oh, it's an Asian cast, so then therefore this movie is only for Asians. And so that happens oftentimes in beauty as well, that it's like, oh, this is only for the Black audience, this is only for the Asian audience, et cetera. How do we get past that?
Yeah, I love this question, and I speak about it often. At 13 Loon, we are Black and brown for all, and we are diligent in our messaging that Black and brown people do not just create products for Black and brown people. As a skincare formulator, a makeup founder now, of course I'm going to create products that work for my skin. I have eczema, I have rosacea, I have hyperpigmentation, hypopigmentation. I have to understand the sensitivity of my own skin. But the fact of the matter is, if it works on me, it's probably going to work on anyone. And at the end of the day, most of the beauty secrets and rituals and ingredients that we use across the entire industry come from marginalized parts of the world. Whether we're talking about Chinese rice powder or quinoa from Peru or the African ingredients that I've spoken about, they come from there, and those people look like the people that come from there. So of course, you can use products created by Black and brown people, and it was one of the questions I was asked a lot in 2020, mostly in support of my first brand. Can I use your face oil because I don't look like you? And I would normally respond as kindly as possible by saying things like, I use Laura Mercier, I use Hourglass, I don't look anything like those women. And so I think while we have come so far, it's really, really important to also, whether you are an ally, whether you are a Black or brown person, to continue to shop Black and brown brands, because Black and brown people have made such an impact to make a lot of people a lot of money.
Love that. Okay, so we've got about 6 minutes left. So I want to go down the line, and I know there's a lot of brand founders in here and also people who work at brands. I love the idea of us giving some advice. And so, for each of you, Jackie, we'll start with you. What's your advice for anyone who's starting a brand today?
Ooh, okay. So honestly, I would probably say make sure you're doing something that, like, if you're not gonna make any money for a while, you'd still be okay with it. Cause that's what I did. And honestly, I went into it thinking, cause we started with home fragrance, and I was kind of like, well, at that time I was thinking more passion project, and I was like, if no one likes these candles, I sure as hell am gonna be using them. And I still feel that way about my product. Like, it was never like supposed to be this big, huge Forbes. Like, I just went into it thinking much smaller. And then when we launched, it launched bigger than we planned. And that was a whole chaotic moment for us. But I really think it needs to be something that you kind of are obsessed with, so that when you hear people say it's not a great idea, because you will hear people say it's not a great idea. Sometimes it's family members, sometimes it's your loved ones. You need to be able to take it with a grain of salt and still be like, okay, that's your opinion. I'm still gonna do it though. So that's my advice.
Great advice. Nyakio?
Advice. So obviously lean into your authentic story. What is your why? I think people buy into people before they buy into product. And then don't be afraid of failure. I use the analogy all the time that when my kids were little and they learned to ride bikes and they would fall down, I didn't call them failures. The only failure was not getting back up on the bike. Don't be afraid of no. Redirection is protection. It can feel really devastating to get your hopes up about whether it be that first PO or, working with a certain manufacturer. And, no is often an opportunity to lead you on a better path. So welcome it. And as far as anxiety, I'm somebody who often suffers from anxiety. And when someone said to me once to reframe anxiousness, especially around business, it's a very, very anxious inducing situation to be an entrepreneur. But reframing anxiety as it has the same physiological experience in our body as excitement. So whenever I feel anxious in my business, I always reframe it and say, I'm so thrilled that I have the opportunity to have this tough conversation. I'm so excited that this launch is happening and I can't wait to see what comes. So make sure that you're just constantly giving yourself that love, that pep talk. You gotta love yourself and your business more than anyone else, and you'll find yourself in a great place.
I'm coming to all of your TED Talks. Brandi, your advice?
My advice is to really study the category that you are seeking to enter, because you need to be able to carve out a truly distinct point of difference, and you need to be able to boldly communicate that to everyone that will listen, and maybe other people who don't even want to listen. And think about the retailer. You can study the shelves at Ulta Beauty with the category that you're thinking about to figure out, is there something new that I'm bringing that's gonna delight the guests of Ulta Beauty? And if it's not 100% clear that it's something new, it's probably not gonna break through, because there are thousands, we see this all the time, thousands of new brands that want to enter beauty because it's a really attractive category. So just being really distinct on what your point of difference is, study where you can fit in on the shelves and actually drive incremental growth would be it. And then I'd also say, I'm gonna merge some of my old experience from Meta. What we found is when you think about small businesses and founders, the number one challenge that people say they have is in sales and marketing, and not necessarily understanding how to promote their product. We all in this room know the importance of cultivating a community online. If you want to launch a product, the retailer's going to go and look, see what's happening with their following. There are so many tips and tricks to that trade. It's not just about going out and saying, hey, I'm just going to put it out and hope that they will come. Meta has a ton of free resources and free tutorials. Go and study so you can learn all those tricks of the trade. And you mentioned this, but also don't be discouraged if your first answer is no. really think about what you're hearing from that merchant partner, take that feedback in, and go and refine it. Because at the end of the day, there's something in that feedback. You just got to make sure you listen and apply it. And we've been talking a little bit about joy and the importance of like keeping that close to your heart, which I love. We have a campaign called the Joy Project, where I learned that there is a huge joy deficit in the world, right? And it's primarily driven by negative self-talk. So while you might hear a lot of no's, you definitely have to reframe that negative self-talk so you can get right back out there.
Love that. Love that as our closing words. Ladies, thank you so much. This has been fabulous. Everyone, please join me in giving them a big round of applause. Thank you so much. All right, great. Our next panel will be up in a little bit.
They sing for the best. My reputation's never been worse, so you must like me.